You'd mentioned the need for global regulation. In India, through the data privacy bill, which is going to be introduced, the focus is on data localization, ensuring that Indian data stays in India, because this is, after all, the age of data. Given these two contrasting impulses, how do you see the data privacy debate in India in the way that it's shaped up till this moment?
Well, I haven't seen the latest version of the legislation you referred to, but I very much hope that that legislation will not include provisions to sort of, how can I put it, sort of divide up the data cake. Because, you know, remember, one of the great things about the internet, or particularly the internet outside China, I should say, is that it is so open. It is so fluid. It doesn't recognize, in a sense, it doesn't recognize geography. The internet is something which everyone can relish and partake in and build businesses and communicate with each other. And that's also, of course, true in social media. And I think the great risk would be if India were to say, oh, well, we're going to hoard all this data to ourselves, then, I don't know, then Vietnam will do that next, and then the European Union will do that next, and the US will do it next. And before you know it, the global internet, as we know it, will have disintegrated and will have fragmented, which is why we believe that, and I hope this is how things will turn out, that it is actually in India's own interest, given India's very, very vibrant digital economy, and that India is already, and will soon become, as I say, it's not if, it's when India will become a global superpower in the digital economy. It is in India's own interest to keep data flows open. And particularly, by the way, I should say, at a time when the Europeans and the US have just recently, over the last couple of weeks, entered into a new agreement to ensure the continued open data flows across the Atlantic. And I think India and Europe and the US are the tripod, if I can put it like that, for the future governance of the online world. And the more that India, Europe and the US can align and work together, the better for us all.
You know, we've spoken about elections. I want to spend a moment talking about the impact apps like Instagram have on the psyche of young kids, adolescents, teenagers, and so much research coming out. And this is not necessarily just to blame Meta, but just the reality of social media impacting impressionable minds. What are you doing to try and make all these apps safer for our young children?
Well, you mentioned research. As it happens, research is not conclusive at all. I mean, it's really quite a lot of research which suggests that for the vast majority of youngsters, being able to find community, find people that they can associate with, find people that they can share their experiences with, is actually a very good thing for their own sense of well-being. But of course, for people who are not feeling great about themselves or dealing with challenging issues in their lives anyway, and particularly if they're just passively scrolling and not interacting with other people, then it isn't always a great experience. So what we try and do is understand that, and then try and build features in Instagram which will help both parents and kids get the best experience possible. So we've just, I think over the last several months, we've rolled out 30 new features so that you can limit the amount of time you're on Instagram, far greater parental control so that parents have got greater visibility about what their kids are doing. Fantastic new feature which sort of nudges you. If you're just scrolling on the same thing over and over again, the same kind of content, our systems will say, hey, maybe you want to look at some different content now. So I think both with the research and with the new features that we're rolling out, everybody, whether it's government, parents, families, kids or ourselves, we all have the same interest, which is to make sure that any experience online for young people is as wholesome and as positive as it can be.